Hey people, my name is Ashlee Legister. I'm 27 years old and a mother of two. I'm a recruitment consultant and a fashion blogger, and by the end of this month, I will own my own kids' fashion clothing line.
Cool. So actually, I guess I haven't known you for long, but you strike me as very confident, and you have quite a few roles that you kind of juggle, isn't it?
Yeah, correct.
So you are a personal trainer.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on that and tell us exactly what that involves?
Yeah. So personal trainer, also known as being a PT. I actually started. When did I start? I started when I was 21 years old. And I went into a self-employed role working at Pure Gym, at my local Pure Gym. And basically with a self-employed role, you basically have to do a certain amount of hours for Pure Gym so that you don't pay rent. So it's literally everything that you make goes to you. So yeah, that was the main role that I started off with when it came to PTing. So I started that straight after university because during college and university, I studied sports courses. So that was my first love, basically my passion. So yeah, that's how I started PTing. And then straight from there, I went into F45 Brixton, which is a massive chain, basically. It's like a sports chain. Right. There's quite a few of them around. And I became a head trainer at that place. And then I also PT'd different clients at a PT studio in Greenwich.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And then you're also a fashion stylist and fashion blogger.
Correct. Yes.
So how did all of that come about?
So that actually started off with me fashion blogging. So I did fashion blogging on Instagram. I took off really well during COVID times. I think everyone kind of was just on Instagram. And they noticed that my main thing was fashion. Loved blogging fashion. Did it on a day-to-day basis. I was literally ordering tons and tons of clothes during COVID. Blogging it. And then there, it kind of started off into fashion styling. Personal styling as well, and people was just asking me, "Oh, could you style me? Could you style me?" And I thought, you know what, I'm going to get into this and kind of take it into a business route. So yeah, that's what I did.
Okay. And then your third role is you're a recruitment consultant in the healthcare sector.
Correct. Yes. God, it sounds like so many roles, but basically, I started this role. This was, I'll be honest, this was more based around money because I came out of COVID and realised that I wanted to take things to the next level. I wanted to move out of my mum's property. So we needed the money. So I actually went into recruitment consulting, for the healthcare sector, which is basically me hiring doctors around the world. Right. And for those who don't know, recruitment consulting is pretty good when it comes to money. So yeah, that's what I did.
Okay, nice. Now I was, we're talking off camera, and I was commenting that when I first met you, I kind of thought you were maybe like late teens, early 20s, but you're growing
yeah. A little bit older than that.
Especially to have a job as serious as being a recruitment consultant in that sector. And then you're also a mum of two.
Correct, I am. Yeah, so I have an 11-year-old and a 4-month-old baby. So I had my 11-year-old when I was actually 15, which was quite a hectic time in my life. Imagine you're in secondary school doing your GCSEs. So yeah, that was quite something. But I learned so much being a young mum. Like literally, I grew with my son. So it was a relationship that had a lot of experiences with us both. Yeah. Whatever he learned, I kind of learned along the way because I was still living at my mum's house. Yeah. So I was still a baby myself, literally. But yeah, obviously raising him, he had a balance of having a young mum and an older grandma. Okay. So it was a fair balance, which probably explains his personality now. I think he's very quite well grounded, I would say. Yeah. So yeah, and then 4 months ago, I gave birth to my baby boy. So I'm officially a boy mum of two.
And second time round, do you, well, no, not is it easier, but how is it different?
Everything. If you asked me, in fact, people did ask me during my pregnancy, how do you think it's going to be compared to my firstborn? And I was like, I don't remember being pregnant. Okay. I don't remember any of it. I don't actually remember how I got him into his sleep routine. I don't remember weaning him onto food. There was a lot that I didn't miss it. I was there, but I was a child. I was young. I was going through GCSEs. I was going through quite a hectic part in my personal life as well as becoming a mum overnight, basically. Yeah. So it's completely different. I'm in my own space. Yeah. Financially different. I began raising my second born with my partner.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my first one, it was a different situation. We were both young, so I don't fault him for anything. But completely different. My life is just completely different. You're never really ready, but I felt ready, if that makes sense. So yeah, completely different experience.
Okay.
So yeah.
I mean, I can't comment as a mum, but as a dad of two, I found having the second child a bit harder.
Really?
Yeah, I think because like we were at a stage where we had a routine, we just got out sleeping, and then you kind of have to reset.
Of course, and your two are closer together than mine. Yeah. So by the time that the second one came, my big boy's off to secondary school. So it's a completely different, being a mother of two, but having that 10-year gap is a complete different for the parents who have like 1 year gap. It's completely different. I almost feel like it's not the correct term. I probably shouldn't say it, but I feel like I'm a mother of one.
Right, okay.
Because it's just my newborn that I'm solely focusing on, where my older boy is going through a transition in life where he's literally like a young adult.
Yeah.
He's doing his own thing. He's finding himself. He's very independent. There's no more school runs. So it's completely different atmosphere, experience, everything. So I completely your experience is going to be completely different to mine. So I mean, the sleep routine was gone a very long time ago. So it's completely different. So
are there any kind of mum bloggers that you follow that have kind of helped you along the way this time around?
Do you know what? I wouldn't necessarily say helped. The only reason why I would say helped, and not in a disrespectful way at all, but just because I kind of got into the mindset to kind of do things the way I wanted to do it. So I didn't necessarily use any mum bloggers to help me, but I enjoy watching the experience. Right. There's one called like Desreen on Instagram. She's actually a twin and she's a mother of two. Yeah. And I think her boys are like a year apart. Yeah. And
that's a lot.
I just look and I just think, wow. Like I think it's absolutely amazing what she's doing, both boys as well. So very similar in some ways because she also fashion blogs as well. So it's amazing to see that she's still content creating whilst being pregnant and straight after pregnancy as well, and having a 1-year-old. So it's amazing to watch her. So I would definitely say that's probably one that I watch quite a bit. Like I respect her a lot. So yeah.
Cool. Now something we both share is that we were both brought up in South London.
Correct.
I was brought up in Battersea, St John's Hill.
Okay.
So that area's always got a place in my heart.
Of course.
Like 20 years.
Yeah.
If you go back to you as a child, what would you say, or how do you describe Ashlee as a child to Ashlee now as a woman? Are there any similarities or differences?
I would say the similarity is definitely a risk taker.
Right, okay.
If it's something I want to do, I'm just going to do it. There's pros and cons to it, of course, especially being an adult. When you're a risk taker when you're a child, it's completely different. Yeah. When you're an adult and you're a mother of two, I suppose I need to be careful with some of my decisions because I've now got two people relying on me. But there's pros to it because you kind of jump into the deep end. You're kind of fearless. You're kind of just, you're doing what you want to do. You're not really following any rules. You're following your own pathway. So I would say that's definitely a similarity. I would say the difference is I don't actually think there's much difference with me, just apart from the fact that I'm a mother. Yeah. So I think, once again, yes, I'm a risk taker, but it might take me a little bit longer to take that risk. Okay. Whereas, obviously, when you're a child, you just do it. Yeah. Like, for example, actually, I wasn't a child, but when I was 21 and I became a self-employed PT, I was still living at my mum's house. Right. So I knew there wasn't going to be money straight away, but I had a roof over my head because I was at my mum's. Okay. Whereas now, I would stand back and be like, okay, cool, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to change. Is this going to work? Is that going to work? Yeah. It's like you do a risk assessment. Yeah. As well, before I didn't do a risk assessment, I jumped into it. Right, I see. So I would say that's probably the difference. Like I just take a little bit longer to take that risk. Okay. But yeah, other than that, I think it's much the same. Right.
So you mentioned your mum a couple of times. What aspects of like her parenting do you think you've adopted with your boys?
I think this is a really good question, because I actually see myself being my mum more and more every day. Yeah. I say that. I say that because my mum solely focused on her two kids. There was no outer distractions. She went to work, she came home, her two kids, she went to work. And I would say that's pretty much me. I love my friends. I love my outer family. I love everything else. But my kids are literally my world.
Yeah.
Like, and it's mad because I thought I was actually going to stop after Anton. So I thought I was going to have one child and that was it. But I think that's also because I was younger. So that one child just sounded perfect to me.
Yeah.
Then my second born, amazing baby. And now I'm just like, okay, now my heart's full. Like, it's like, I just focus solely on those two. And then outside of those two, work.
Okay.
To work. And obviously there's pros and cons to that because, you know, you should have some sort of like a release, like a detachment. You should. Yeah. But because my baby's still so young and I'm at home and I have so much free time whilst at home, it makes sense for me to do it that way. Okay. Like, focus on my two kids, focus on making money. Yeah. Focus on my two kids, focus on making money. So I would say that's what I've adopted for my mum. Okay. Like, there was just no outer distractions for her. She knew what she was doing. It wasn't easy, of course. Yeah. She was a single mother of two. Definitely not easy. But I just saw she was just so focused, and that's what I adapt from her, or adopted from her, should I say. So yeah, that's the main thing.
Like, because I've got two girls, and I get asked the question, oh, do I not want a boy? All the time. I think I always wanted girls anyway. Okay. I've got two nephews where I love them to bits. Yeah. But boys seem like a different kind of work. Yes, correct. So I find that with my daughter, it's a more emotional kind of support that needs to be provided, and a little bit of physical. Would you like to have a girl at some point? Honestly, from young, I've wanted to be a boy mum. Right, okay. And I say that because you just mentioned the emotional side. And I think I only really tapped into my emotional side properly only a couple of years ago. Okay. So, like one of my best friends, she's got two girls and she's a girl mum. Right. She is amazing at being a girl mum. Yeah. Whereas I'm very physical. I love messing about with them, and then having that fair balance of them being open to talk about their emotions. Right. But that's because I've tapped into my emotions now. Whereas before, I wasn't tapped in. When I had my firstborn, I wasn't tapped into my emotions. So I think it was safe to say that it was safe for me to be a boy mum more than a girl mum, because I didn't know how to actually deal with females. Okay. So I think being a boy mum, it's easy for me. I would say it's easy for me. Right. I hope people from the outside looking and think, oh yeah, it's easy for her. Yeah. But I just think it's easy because I suppose for men, you're kind of growing them to be a man, which I don't necessarily like that, because it's almost like you're forcing them not to be emotional, and that's not the correct way. But there's just the right amount of emotion for them because they have to be masculine. Yeah. So I think that's me. Okay. I'm very feminine. I don't want to take that away from me, but I've just got the right amount of not pushing him to be too emotional, but pushing him to be in touch with his emotions. Yeah. So obviously it's God's decision. It's not my decision if I was to have a girl or not. But I'm just happy with my two boys. Wow. I'm very much a boy mum. Cool. So yeah. So if there's a girl, then we'll see how that goes. Cool. But yeah. And you've clearly got a lot on. So what does a day off look like for you?
I don't think I have a day off. Really? I don't think I do. I think that's bad though. I do think that's bad. I do think everyone should have a day off, but I don't think I have a day off yet just because my baby's still very young. Okay. I think once we get into that solid routine, once we get into me like 100% confident to like leaving with someone for a day, then that'll be different. Yeah. But I don't really have a day off yet. I'm comfortable not having a day off yet, I think, because he obviously has days where his dad's off fully for the whole day from his job. And so that eases the workload for me. But I don't have a full day off, I don't think. Especially not at the stage of me trying to start a clothing line. Yeah. I don't really know if there's going to be much days off yet until that kind of takes off. Okay. So yeah, I don't have a day off, but I do make sure I write down my affirmations every day. I think that's my time away slightly. I write in my diary every day. So yeah, those little things there kind of help me to detach, but not a day off.
Right, okay.
So yeah, maybe need to work on that a little bit.
You know, when you were, I don't know, let's say 15, 16, did you have a clear kind of vision as to what your career was going to be?
I knew I was going to end up in fashion.
Okay.
What it was going to do, whether it was writing it, blogging it, doing anything to do with fashion. I don't know what direction it was going to go in, but it was going to be fashion. Okay. Like, I just didn't know. But fashion's always been me. I've always found fashion my way to express myself. Right. Some days I can dress like a tomboy. Some days I can be really girly. Sometimes I can be in tight clothing, but I prefer like looser fitting clothing. Yeah. So it's just very up and down. But I knew that I focused on clothing a lot. Okay. So it was going to go whatever direction. It was going to be fashion direction. Okay. So yeah, I didn't really know actually. Not specifically, but just fashion based. Okay. So yeah.
All right. And just going back to your role as a recruiter, that's quite a full-on role, isn't it?
Yeah, like extremely full-on.
So, I mean, talk me through like what an average day involves doing that particular task.
Doing that particular task, it is a very repetitive task. Okay. So let's say, for example, you're recruiting for one role. So you need to look for a consultant. You literally have a database of 1,000 consultants right there. Right. That database might not even necessarily be up to date. So unfortunately, you might be ringing doctors that are retired. Okay. It's hard to stay motivated because I think from the outer world, people think, okay, it's a job. There's a doctor there. That's it. Yeah. No, it's not. Because these are locum doctors as well. So they're locum doctors, which means it's doctors that literally go from hospital to hospital to hospital. They're not stationary at one hospital. So that's also a challenge in itself because they're probably signed up to another 5 different agencies that have booked them for work already. Right. So to actually find a doctor for a role, it is very, very stressful, very challenging. You can have that role on your books for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So that's why I say it's a very repetitive role. It's a lot, and I struggled a lot with it round about the 6-month mark of my pregnancy. Like, it was doing that role when you're not pregnant, stressful, get on with it. Doing it when you're pregnant, no. So I actually unfortunately had to get signed off of work by my doctor because it's a lot to take on. It's not a 9 to 5. It could be a 9 to 9. Yeah. It could be you working on Saturday sometimes because you got to interview a doctor. It's very, I say that I don't have any days off now. You don't really have a day off there. It's quite weird. It's just non-stop. And because the commission's so good, you want to keep working. Okay. So it's almost like you're continuously putting yourself under stress. Yeah. Because the role, allows you to make as much money as possible in 1 month. Some months are low, some months are really high, but you never want that. You never want a month to drop. Yeah. So you want to book a doctor like 3 months ahead. So it's just non-stop, constantly. So that was a lot during my pregnancy. So yeah, I think the best way to put it is just it's very repetitive. Right. But yeah, I think that's the main word to describe it. Okay.
How would you define making it to I don't know, anybody in terms of what you perceive it to be?
I would just say freedom. Okay. And freedom in the sense of you're actually waking up and doing what you want to do. I'm not waking up because I have to go and work for someone at 8 p.m. Or 8 a.m. Sorry, should I say? Like, I just want to be able to be free. Yeah. And like, I believe in that so much in everything that you do. The moment it causes you stress, the moment it causes you discomfort. In fact, the thing is, I say discomfort, but sometimes you have to be uncomfortable to actually get where you want to be. But the moment that I say that I've made it, I want to be comfortable. Like, I want to wake up when I want to wake up. I want to deal with just my kids on a Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday because I don't want to work today. So yeah, I would say mainly if I'm saying like, what do I look at as making it? It's just freedom. Everything is done on your own time, your own clock. Yeah, that's definitely making it for me. That's making it.
And thinking of your younger self, what one piece of advice would you give to the younger Ashlee?
One piece of advice, I always think about this actually. One piece of advice I would say is stop worrying.
Right.
I think there's a light at the end of every tunnel. We don't always see it, but I believe it's always there, like always. It might not go the way you planned it to go, but I think God's got you. I just think He knows what He's doing, man. Like he puts you in situations that He knows you can handle at all times. So it's going to be fine. So my younger self, I would just say, don't worry, just do it. If you make a loss, you make a loss, but there's going to be a win at the end of it. But yeah, that's the main thing I would tell my younger self, just stop worrying. Okay. So yeah.
I mean, you mentioned, you've made reference to God a couple of times, so obviously you're a Christian.
I am, yeah.
So has that been, were you brought up a Christian?
Yes, I was. And I do really believe in God. I pray every single day, talk to Him every single day. But I would actually say I'm probably more spiritual sometimes than religious. Because manifestation is big for me. Speaking things into existence, writing down my affirmations, being careful what type of energy I'm around. So that's why I say spiritually, I probably head more in that direction. But I know God's there. Okay. I know the reason for most things is because of Him. So yeah, I was brought up in a Christian household, but I wouldn't necessarily say my mum was strict on it. But I just knew what direction we was heading in. That's the best way for me to put it. But I wasn't forced to go to church every Sunday. Yeah, I wasn't forced to do any of those things, but I know He's there. So yeah, that's kind of what my mum left it at. And that's kind of what I do with my two now. So yeah, that's the best way to explain it.
Right. And you also made reference to like your friends earlier on. So in your friendship circle, kind of, well, where does Ashlee kind of fit in?
Probably the crazy one. I think the crazy one, but I think a good crazy. If there is a good crazy, I say a good crazy because I think they'll look at me and just be like, Ashlee just does what she wants to do. I just always do what I want to do. I think my mum would say I was kind of disobedient at times. But yeah, there could be something crazy that I want to do, I want to do it. Life is too short. I just jump in the deep end as much as I can, and I just want to experience everything. Even if it's something that I don't think I'm going to like, I want to experience it. Just to say I've done it. So I'm kind of the crazy friend, but I always got a smile on my face doing those crazy things. So yeah.
Tell us about one thing that you do that it looks easy, but it's incredibly hard.
Being a mum. I think, do you know what? Sometimes I'll take a picture and I'll put it on Instagram, or take a small video and it'll be all laughing, and 2 seconds later, I'm going to cry. So I think being a mum, I think I show the good side more than the struggling side, which I'm actually trying to break out of. I started a YouTube and I'm trying to actually show everybody every angle. I think I do too much of showing, yay, when really and truly, if we're being honest, you as a parent as well, you'll know it's really not that all day long. Like it's actually far from that. But because I think the reason why I do that and I don't talk about the bad times as much is because I don't want to be seen as being ungrateful. Do you know what I mean? And the thing is, I'm grateful, I'm blessed, I wouldn't change my kids, but there's times where I want to lock myself in the bathroom and cry. But I think that might be down to me just being tired. I don't think my kids are bad or anything, but it's just overnight I've turned into a mother of 2. And now I'm like, my dreams are slowing down. Are they stopping? Oh my God, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to do that? And I'm always somebody that's always on the go. So even being pregnant when I wasn't able to do the things that I wanted to do, like working full time, it's a lot. Like it was a big strain for me. And I definitely, over time, I want to change just showing good times. That doesn't mean necessarily inviting people into my life on like my private side of things, but I'm going to let you know I cried today. I didn't just smile the whole day. And I think everyone sees that because, let's say, for example, for a long time, obviously, I only had one son and the hard part was gone for a long time because he grew up out of things. He was becoming like a little young man. But then like I've gone back again because I've got a newborn. So for a long time, it was just all smiles. But realistically, right now, I think like 2 days ago, I was in the bathroom crying. It's the reality of it. Like it's hard. And I hate crying in front of my kids. Hate it, hate it, hate it. I don't like that I don't do that though, because it's almost like I'm living two lives for them when I want them to actually see everything.
Yeah, I guess you're trying to protect them as well.
I'm trying to protect them. But it's almost like, are you protecting them so much sometimes that you're actually breaking yourself? It's very hard to find that balance.
Yeah.
Especially when I say to my oldest boy, like, you can cry if you want, but then he's never seen me cry.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can I tell him to do that and then don't show him that side of me? It's very hard, very, very hard. But yeah, we're just trying to protect them constantly all the time. So yeah, you're kind of living two lives. So that's the challenging thing.
Yeah. I mean, on the whole social media thing of showing people the more vulnerable emotional side, it's difficult to whip out the phone when you're either angry or you're crying.
Of course.
So,
yeah. Like when I see people crying on a camera, I'm like, how did you even have time to take your phone out?
Yeah.
But even if it's not necessarily like actually crying, but just sometimes I like to write on my story, not just pictures.
Yeah.
I should write about it. Let people know, because then people are more comfortable to do it as well. Because right now it's like we're almost living a facade. Like we're making it seem like parenting's easy. Oh yeah, have a kid tomorrow. Yeah. When really and truly your whole life does change. So it's kind of like, are you kind of like telling the world a lie? Are you really being real? Are you hiding behind social media? Like it's a lot to take into consideration, and I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to do that. Like I want to tell people, like, you know what? Today was a great day. But for 3 minutes, I cried. Yeah. For 3 minutes, I really just wanted to tell my kids, leave me alone. Yeah. For 3 minutes, I wanted to just go into another room while you guys did your own thing. Yeah. When really and truly, everyone thinks that you're constantly just around your kids smiling all day long. You're not. You're actually not. Like it's hard. So yeah, not necessarily crying in front of a camera, but I just want to like write about it, just to let people know, like, it's okay. Yeah. Because I think sometimes when you're just doing it by yourself and everyone is smiling constantly, you start to think, am I doing something wrong? Yeah. Why are you so happy constantly being a parent and I'm sitting over here struggling? And I don't like making people feel like that, because it's not true. Yeah. I'm actually going through exactly what you're going through, but I've chosen to show this small snippet of my life. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely something I want to work on.
Yeah, I mean, happiness is something that I struggled with, I say, the past 2 years. Okay. Because I thought I should be on top of the world as a parent.
Of course.
And money-wise, material-wise, we have everything that we'd ever want and more. And then you should still be happy, but you're not. Yeah. So I started counseling this to kind of unpack some issues that stem from childhood, that I guess, if they get resolved, it would help me to be a better father and whatnot. So yeah, I find sometimes I'm having to stay on social media, but because I do it for business,
of course,
it's not so easy. Kind of easy. My wife, she's just purely personal. So she finds it easier to break away from it for like maybe a week and then go back on it. I totally understand what you're saying about the happiness and showing the real side.
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose it's probably hard as well, because at one point my Instagram was just solely based on fashion for a very long time, because my son got to an age where he didn't want me to take pictures of him anymore. Yeah. So I wasn't really uploading him on the story. He was kind of like behind the scenes. And then I had a newborn. You know, when you have a newborn, you're taking pictures of every little thing. They could be sleeping and taking a picture. So it's kind of like, now that I'm tapping back into that, and I'm kind of changing my Instagram to be like fashion and motherhood, okay, I think I should tap into it a bit deeper. Like, it's not just smiles all day. So I think I've kind of got the pathway to kind of go in that direction. As where before, my child wasn't on social media. So it was kind of easy not to even talk about anything about motherhood. Whereas now I've got a baby. So I think now I'm like, no, I want to talk about it more now, because I'm at an age where I've got my own space. I've now got 2 kids. I'm now trying to do a clothing line. Life is sometimes a bit too much. So yeah, I've created the pathway to now talk about it more. Okay. So I think I should. So yeah, I do get what you mean though about, like, you know, you having to detached from Instagram, but obviously social media is a part of you because of what your job is. So it's very difficult. And plus, if your Instagram page, for example, is just basically focused on one thing, it's kind of like, the people who follow me for fashion, do they want to hear that about motherhood?
Yeah, okay, I understand.
But I blogged a lot during my pregnancy, so I think they knew it was coming. Like, I blogged a lot of fashion during my pregnancy, so they knew that the motherhood side was coming. So now I'm kind of like flowing into that anyway. So I'm looking forward to that, definitely.
And I guess we're in a kind of time frame where the term representation matters is quite prevalent. So growing up, was there anybody, whether in your family or in the limelight, that you looked up to, that you felt, oh, I want to be like you?
It's probably quite cliche, but my mum.
Right.
I wouldn't say my mum was rich. I wouldn't say she was ever self-employed. I wouldn't say those things. So not focusing on that, but just my mum's mindset. I think my mum is just strong. The only thing I would say about my mum that I wish she didn't do was I want her to be more emotional. That's the only thing. But because of that, I wasn't emotional for a long time. But I've learned that I really want to be emotional. Like, I really want to be in touch with my emotions, because if I understand my emotions, I understand why I feel that way, how I got there. I want to be in touch from all different angles. But in the sense of being strong and loving my kids, it's my mum. Because I think no matter what my mum did, up till now, my sister's grown. I'm grown. But my mum loves us. And we see it and feel it every single day. Obviously, I'm from a Jamaican background. And so they're not necessarily like, when I say love, they didn't hug you every day. But I know my mum is there. And so I might not hug my oldest son every day, because he probably doesn't want me to, because it's probably embarrassing for him. But he knows I'm there. My son knows that no matter what happens, even if it's his fault, I'm there. I'm going to tell you you're wrong, but I'm there to help you. And I got that from my mum. I think no matter what I did, I mean, I fell pregnant at a young age. My mum never abandoned me. She never made me feel bad. She never pushed me away. She was there, like physically, mentally, everything. To the point that my oldest son, obviously, for a few months, he was actually calling my mum, because that's all he knew, because I went back to school. So she did a lot for me. So I think my mum, like, it's quite cliche. I know a lot of people say it, but I just don't. I want to be myself, but I want to be myself with a hint of my mum. And I think I've taken it on so far. Like, I think my kids know I'm there. So that's the main thing, definitely.
I mean, maybe you're being a bit too hard on yourself, because I had a chat with my mum the other day, just asking her if they were happy growing up, like when we were kids growing up. And one thing she said is that we didn't have the time to ask ourselves that question.
Okay.
Because they've got so many responsibilities. They're going to work,
of course,
coming back to bring you up, and there is a unique strength of that generation that I guess we're trying to replicate with our kids, but it's in a different kind of scenario.
Oh, completely. Yeah, completely. Like, it's completely different. Like, even what I'm trying to do and what my mum did. Like, for example, I suppose the older generation, they go into a 9-to-5. They will stick at that job for years because of stability. Whereas I think, like, the later generations, I think a lot of us are trying to get self-employment. So that in itself is just completely two different things. It's really difficult. It is difficult, because I think my mum would probably look at me and be like I'm crazy. Like how do you just wake up one day and decide you're going to do a clothing line? But it's just kind of like, if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? I don't want to be in a job for years and years and years doing something that genuinely doesn't bring me happiness. I don't want to do something just for money. I genuinely want to be happy doing something, and then the money will flow. So I suppose there's two completely different generations. Like my mom, like I said, stability was their main thing. They would do whatever job to bring the money in. Whereas I'm kind of like, I need to find happiness first and then hope the money flows with it. So yeah, two completely different generations.
Have you thought in some way that you might be inspiring your mum?
I mean, I joke about a lot and say like, I'm keeping her young. But maybe, I don't know. We've never had that conversation.
Right.
We've never had that conversation really. But what I would say is my mum does always tell me how proud she is.
Okay.
So maybe that is her way of telling me like, wow, I would never do what you're doing, but well done.
Yeah.
Maybe that is her way of saying it.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, but you know, like I said, like a Jamaican older woman, sometimes the way they communicate is a bit different. Yeah. So it might be her way of saying that. Yeah, I haven't thought about that. I might talk to her about that actually.
And so over like the COVID period and lockdowns and whatnot, how did that affect you? And because you mentioned that the clothing brand and your recruitment work came from that.
Yes, and I started blogging fashion like heavily during then. So there was pros and cons to it. I would say there was more pros because it made me really look into what I want to do. I would say the con of it was that I was not able to be as busy as I want to be. Like I'm someone who constantly wants to be on the go. And obviously, as everyone knows, COVID just slowed that right down for everybody. So I think that was the frustrating part for me. I like to be out of the house. I like to, I don't know, for me, we're just going to the park. I love doing all of those things because I felt like the outer side really helped me with fashion. It really helped with my creative process. It helped with like me just feeling different things. But during COVID, I was staying at my mum's house and we was on top of each other. It was 3 girls and a boy, which was my son. So having 3 women in the house and a boy, it was very, it's almost like 3 divas on top of each other. And it can get a lot. It can get a lot. So that pushed me to obviously kind of, because I moved out of my mum's, during COVID. So I think a couple months into COVID, I think I moved out. And that was amazing for me. Like it was an amazing time. Like I literally felt like I reached a different level because now in my own house, I have no choice but to make some serious money because I've got to keep this roof over my head. I've got to prove a point to my mum that I can do it because I'm not going back to my mum's house. So I've got to really dive deep into something now. Like I've really got to take this moment and do what I need to do. So there was pros and cons to it. But I would say more pros than cons. I mean, unfortunately, I know it was a really tough time for many people, but for me personally, it was just, I just took things to another level. So yeah, that's what kind of happened for me.
Just kind of on a tangent, what made you decide to cut your hair short?
Do you know what? I've always been someone that had enough of hair, you know? I think I only really had hair for a long amount of time because I was constantly told, don't cut your hair. And then I kind of got to a point where I was just like, oh my God, my hair's not me. And then I cut my hair and I just did it randomly. I just cut it randomly. And then my style changed.
I see.
Because it changed because I think I actually became more confident. So I tapped into a different style, which was a bit more of a mature style sometimes as well. And then I said, you know what, short hair's me. Grew my hair out, and then my style changed again. It kind of went backwards. Cut my hair again, and now I'm like, yeah, I will never grow my hair back.
Was it the same hairdresser that was from the long?
I was actually going to a barber. Yeah, I got my first haircut. So literally from big hair, I went to the barbers and was like, just cut my hair, and just shape me up at the back and let me see what it works with. And he cut it into a style, and I was like, wow. But everyone, thank you. But everyone always asked me, do you go to a hairdresser? And I was just like, no. The first time I went to a hairdresser was 8 weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah, and I cut my hair like 3 years ago. And I was just going to a barber. Like literally, because I just felt like the sharpness that a barber can give was different to a hairdresser for me. And plus, I don't perm my hair.
Right.
A lot of hairdressers kind of want you to relax your hair,
Yeah.
short haircuts. I know for quite obvious reasons, because the style holds a lot better.
Yeah.
But I wanted it to be as natural as possible. I wanted to have my curls some days. I wanted to have an afro some days. I wanted to straighten it some days. So I just went to a barber.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So you mentioned you went to hairdresser. What was that? Was that for a special occasion? Or?
Yes. I started going through postpartum hair loss.
Oh wow.
And I didn't think, no offense, the barber being a male, I didn't know if he understood that experience. Where the hairdresser, she went through postpartum hair loss.
Yeah.
So she had an experience in it. Okay. And she got a transplant and everything. And I needed to know, do I need to go in that route?
Okay.
So I said, I'm going to go through her. Went to her, best experience ever.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I still went to my barber for him to like sharpen the back for me because she focused more on the style. Okay. He focused more on like the trim of it and the sharpness. But that's the only reason why I went to hairdresser. Other than that, barbers all day long. Okay. Yeah.
Because it's perfectly coiffeured. Because I was a junior stylist at High Coiffure.
Oh.
This was when I was 18.
Wow.
And the plan was to work in a salon to understand how women's hair is done, and then understand the makeup, and then as a designer, you create a vision of the woman that you design. Okay. So I spent a good 3 years. So all of the stylists that hired know me.
Wow.
The boss is my mentor, Calvin Rattray. So I understand hairdressing very well.
Yeah.
So I just thought you had it perfectly coiffeured.
Yeah, do you know what? I actually enjoyed doing my own hair.
Okay.
I didn't realise how much I enjoyed doing it until I cut it.
Right, okay.
When it wasn't cut, no. I just wanted everyone to do it for me. But once I cut it, I started to look more into like different cut styles. Okay. One day I might just tell him, you know what, just completely take the back, gone completely. Yeah. Like I didn't care that much to kind of like have a certain amount of hair. Yeah. I just knew that I wanted to make work. Whatever I had. Yeah. So if he cut it a certain way, I'm going to make it work. Okay. Even if I'm like, oh my God, is it going to work? I'm going to make it work. Okay. So then I started to tap into actually styling my own hair. So like I silk press it myself now. I do all that. Like I add my own curls. I'll pin curl it. Yeah. So there's those different things that I'll do like myself now. Yeah. So yeah. Okay.
And of all the different things you've done, what's been the most inspirational, or the one that really sticks out to you?
God, it probably sounds so repetitive, but being a mum.
Okay.
I just hold that so high up, you know, because from the outside, when I was watching everyone do it, I was just thinking, oh, okay. And then you really get into it and you realize, oh my God, like, no, I'm Wonder Woman, because you're doing so many different jobs on a day-to-day basis. It's not literally just taking care of your child, it's actually everything around it. Yeah. But I would say being a mum, but then now at this point that I'm at is being a mum and just taking that risk to actually start a clothing line. Yeah. I'd say that's the thing, because it's like, as many people may know, starting a business is actually an all day, everyday thing. There's always something that pops up that you know, you have to kind of problem solve. So I would literally say being a mum and starting my own clothing line. That's the main thing at the moment.
Cool. So how did the clothing line idea start?
It started, do you know what? I want to say it started just before I gave birth. But once I gave birth, I was like, okay, let's go. Because it's a kids' clothing line as well. Yeah. So I was kind of motivated because I've got 2 boys, and I feel like, without knocking them down, I feel like there's a lot of brands that haven't really tapped into that market fully. I think there's a lot of clothing that I'm missing for boys. I think it's a lot easier to shop for girls than it is to shop for boys. And I think I'm quite particular in the sense of that I really care for them to be comfortable. I really want them to look good. Yeah. Like I really want them to look stylish. I want, and you know, like you go out and someone's like, oh my God, like they look so good. Like I like that. That makes me feel really good knowing that my kids are dressed well. Really important for me. So I think that's kind of what motivated me to do it. And then my youngest was born, and I was like, I've got no choice now, because I want to be self-employed. Yeah. I've got 2 kids now, and I want to be in their life fully, because obviously my firstborn, I went back to school. I don't want no interruptions.
Yeah.
I want to focus on these two. So I thought, you know what, I've got to start it now, because if I don't start now, I don't know when I'm going to start it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my motivation, really.
I mean, I take my hat off to you, because especially as a mum and all the kind of roles you have, because even at home, I look at my wife and I feel inadequate sometimes. That's something she does, and I'm able to just like kick back and
100%.
compartmentalize and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it's been really fascinating hearing your story. I'm just going to wrap up this with a kind of some A or B type questions.
Of course.
So, Audi or Mercedes?
Oh, interior of a Mercedes, but drive of an Audi.
Okay. Right. Beyonce or Whitney?
Whitney.
Okay. Balenciaga or Burberry?
Balenciaga.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Lifetime supply of makeup or lifetime supply of hair products?
Makeup.
R&B or Afrobeats?
Oh, God. R&B. Yeah.
Well-paid job in a toxic environment or low-paid job and it feels like heaven every day?
Low-paid job feels like heaven every day.
Fish and chips or rice and peas and jerk chicken?
Rice and peas and jerk chicken.
Apprentice or Dragon's Den?
Apprentice.
Holiday in Paris or Maldives?
Maldives.
And the last one, heels or trainers?
Heels for the outfit to look good, but trainers for the comfort.
All right, cool. Thank you so much for your time, Ashlee. We'll include all your social media links in the description below.
Thank
It's
you.
been really inspirational hearing your story.
No, thank you so much. Thank you.